welcome to the Etihad Cargo Connections with 10 Furlongs magazine. I'm your host today, Aurelien Jeremiah. Today, we are honored to have a trailblazer in the industry with us. Join us as we dive into the fascinating journey of Jena Antonucci, a remarkable figure breaking barriers in this male-dominated world of horse racing. From her historic Triple Crown triumph to industry leadership, we will explore her insights, challenges, and aspirations. Stay tuned for personal anecdotes, valuable lessons, and updates on the beloved Arcangelo journey into 2024-2025. So, Jena, great to have you here. First of all, could you please tell us a bit more about yourself?
Well, good morning. Thank you. That was a big intro. It's a lot to live up to. I grew up riding show horses and had my exposure to the equine world through, where I think a lot of little girls and young boys come through, whether it's Western world or English world. But my path was through show horses and going, on from about 3 years old, all the way through and learning what it was to ride and take care of horses, the responsibilities of all that. And very blessed to have had that as my foundation to really understand what it takes to make a horse, and to find that connection and what balance means and all of those really intricacies that we really focus on in the show horse world, and more so maybe sometimes than the racing world. So I was able to retrain a lot of thoroughbreds to be show horses, and that was my exposure to thoroughbreds initially. And I just was really curious to how and why they think and do, and how were they started and developed, because I wanted to be able to do a better job of reteaching them a new career once their racing had sunsetted. And so with that said, that's how I got into the thoroughbred side. I went to learn how to develop and start young horses, babies and, kiddos, and teaching them the ropes initially, and just got bit. I loved how fast they learned, and just everything about them. They wanted it. They were hungry for it. They loved it. They thrived. They saw you coming. Let's go do more. And they see your tack coming to the stall, and they're just engaged with you. So that was very compelling and very interesting to me. And probably fortunately, I was a bit naive or ignorant to the men, women, and all of that in this racing world, because growing up in the show horse world, it's not that way at all. So probably much to my benefit, having that as my background allowed me to just keep bumping along and learning and doing.
Well, sure. What a very interesting way to get into this industry, actually.
Very different. I know that was initially what people had the hardest time with, was trying to pinpoint who are you and who were you an assistant for, and how did you learn this world. And initially I just thought, and that was even before Arcangelo came into our lives, but I've always found those questions to be a bit ridiculous, because it didn't matter. Like, I'm here, I have a very good skill set, I have a very diverse skill set. We literally had a foal yesterday. So, understanding the A to Z of a horse, not let me put you in a box that you work for this one person, and that's what makes you a trainer.
Sure, of course. Jena, did you experience any specific challenges or maybe, obstacles as a female trainer, and if so, how did you overcome them?
I'm sure there has been. The hard part is I only know my space, and I only know my journey on all of this. And I think everybody has challenges. Any young trainer going out, male or female, everybody has adversities or knows that they're told it along their path, and I've said it loud and proud that, somebody else's no isn't always about you. Sometimes it's more about them than it is about you. And so I think it's important to continue to forge forward. If you are excellent at what you do and you believe in your skill set, and your horses do the talking for you, and you have a team that's with you, you can't let other people's no's define what your journey is going to be. And so I have no doubt that there are, and there will always be. There are just some people that would prefer not to have a female trainer, and that is fine. And as many of that group of people, there are plenty that don't want to have a male. Oh, I think a female's more intuitive and they're more, plugged in. And so, I think there's an argument for both sides. My hope is that owners and people just continue to dive in and get their arms around very good horsemen and horsewomen and people that they feel are listening to them as an owner, and creating that journey together, and putting the horse first and developing great horses.
Well, at the end of the day, it's all about the horse anyway. And team
Absolutely.
effort, so it doesn't really matter if it's female or male. It's really a team as well. So,
It is, and I'm so blessed. I've had, Fiona, my assistant, we've been together for close to 15 years, which
oh
I hate
wow.
saying that because that makes me older, and it makes her older. So we try and duck and dive that a little bit. Oh yeah, a long time, but we've been a team for a very long time, and her husband is was Arcangelo's rider, has been one of my main riders for a very long time, and all grooms and hot walkers. I'm so blessed to have such a unit, that has believed in me and believed in my fight to, get the best horses we can and to develop horses and do it the right way.
Excellent. How do you think your gender has impacted your career trajectory, in this industry?
I think now, obviously, it's a little bit different.
Sure.
Um, I've always been able to think for myself and have unique ideas, and I'm very much a problem solver personality. So I don't have a problem at all with, challenges and things being difficult and having to figure out to get a solution. And I think sometimes that makes people uncomfortable. I love people to come to me with a problem, but also come to me with what you think might be a solution. And so, excuse me, with that, I think it makes people uncomfortable at times that you're willing to be different. And I think being a female, there have been times that people may have tried to discard or push away or, just put her over on the side a little bit. And like I said, those are their issues, and it may not be your time and your space to do that. And so I'm not going to say it wasn't frustrating or wasn't discouraging or wasn't all of those things. But again, you can't let it define what your drive is and what you want and where you want to be.
That's very true. What advice would you give to other women, aspiring to enter or even thrive in this industry?
Mm. The biggest thing one, don't lose yourself. Understand who you are, understand what makes you happy, and don't compromise on that. Grow in those spaces, but also don't become somebody you're not. We watch that a lot in a lot of businesses, but obviously we're talking about this specific business. So, I watch young girls and young men even come in and start riding, and they just lose their way a little bit. And so my hope is that people find a way to make sure that they stay true to what they want, what makes them genuinely happy. If people are looking to want to become a trainer or, go towards that trajectory, understand what it means to run business. I think that's one of the biggest things we don't talk about is when you hang your shingle to be a trainer, it means you're a business runner and a business operator, and you're responsible for everything that happens. And I think we could probably, convert more assistants and more people desire us to be a trainer if we can help them understand and teach the basics of running a business and what that means.
That's very interesting indeed. Uh, let's talk a little bit more about the Triple Crown race. What was the significance of winning that race, not only for yourself, but also for women in this industry?
Initially, that goal or that accomplishment or aiming for that race, none of that was there. None of those labels were part of the goal. And, I've always said that the accomplishments of Arcangelo were first and foremost about him, and whatever he accomplished, we would be the beneficiaries of. And so because it's hard, right? You get to the bigger stage, the bigger noise, the bigger chatter. And so I think it's really important to stay hyper focused on the horse, that you're placing them appropriately. If we're right and we do our job exceptionally well, the titles are going to come with it. And we were blessed to have that happen in this scenario. And it's been pretty amazing to watch, the aftermath of it all and what it has meant to so many people. It didn't change me. It doesn't change my life. We were still doing and training and grinding away. If anything, it might give a tick more respect to what you do, because it's like, oh, well, you did accomplish X, Y, Z, which is funny in a certain way, because it's like I'm the same now as I was
Sure.
then, but allowed,
That's
yeah, he allowed that window to be opened of what we do. And I think more people watching us a little bit more closely in how and what we do. And, I've had people ask, how can you place some horses this way in some races and some horses that way? And our mission and our goal from the farm all the way through to racing has always been to put the owners first and the horses first. What are their goals? What are their desires? How can we get there together? It's not about my win percentage. Everyone would ideally like to sit, in that 20 area, but it's about, keeping owners happy and cultivating that experience and that relationship with them and having them enjoy it, so that we keep them around for the long haul and aren't turning through owners.
Fair enough. Could you describe some emotions of maybe, challenges you faced during this historical win?
Um, Honestly, I probably can't say, personally, my world got a little louder. So that was a challenge where I've always liked to operate from behind the scenes
Okay.
and let the horses do the talking and let the team step forward into their spaces. And so that wasn't the case, obviously, through this week. One thing that was very important to me, and I appreciate that it was respected, was I didn't want this just to be about the gender card going into this race. Really, what was more important to me was that we weren't one of the big guys. We weren't, a stable of 300. We were, doing absolutely the best we could with every opportunity we were given. And we were given the opportunity of Arcangelo. And so through the week and after, obviously, just the chatter and the noise and not being able to just, bump along and a little bit of obscurity, that didn't happen.
Was it always a positive noise, as you mentioned?
No, no, people
Okay.
can't help themselves. It's famously, the morning of the Belmont, I had been asked to go up and talk on one of the TV sets about the race and this and that. And I'd walked off the set and there was a handicapper sitting there next to a tree and he didn't know who I was, which was fantastic. And they were talking about the Belmont and how they were building their ticket for the day and how they were going to bet and this and that. And, yeah, this Arcangelo horse, this trainer, she's only a X% trainer and blah, blah, blah. He wasn't railing against me per se, didn't know
Sure.
me. And so I had finished on set then and walked off and he was like, and I said, I wish you all the luck today. I hope you bet the right way and made light of it as much as you could. But I'm the nobody. I'm the Jena Antonucci that you were just speaking of, kind of thing. So, you have to find space and humility in those instances. And, there will always be naysayers. And I think it's also important that we have that. We have to have the chatter, just as in every other football or baseball or soccer. Everyone has, Monday morning quarterbacking and coaching that goes on. And so, that we need that chatter. And sometimes you're going to be in the crosshairs of the not so positive chatter.
Fair enough. What did that victory teach you about yourself, and your capabilities as a trainer?
I learned that I could get my, what together quickly because I had to, compose myself right afterwards. But I think it just honestly, it allowed everybody else to see kind of what we already knew. We know how to train horses. We know how to take care of good horses. And we know how to do it. It's just, we hadn't had the opportunity to show it. Not to any of the horses that we had previously to their fault. We've had stake horses previously, but obviously nothing to that level. And so I think showing his consistency, it wasn't just the Belmont. He won 4 races in a row, and it's hard to go back to back to back to back with wins on any kind of horse. So developing him, and we got to develop him from the farm, finished developing with the farm and brought him through his racing career. And so to string together 4 wins also shows the consistency of the program and of the team.
Excellent. And how has this achievement impacted, your approach to training and maybe competition itself?
It hasn't changed it at all.
Mm.
Honestly, I've never placed a horse based on a morning line odds. Those people are there to put that number in because that's their job. They don't know what's going on behind the scenes. My first stake win and first win in New York, way back when, was with a little filly that went off at 100 to 1. And so I think it's important that's some of the white noise, that we've spoken of, where you can't allow, oh, that's crazy. Oh, that horse shouldn't be there. But it's finding the team that believes in that, and the riders that'll ride the horse knowing that the horse is probably on the improve or is doing this or doing that. Because if I would have placed Arcangelo the way that the public perception is, we would have never ended up where we did.
I understand. Let's talk a little bit more about leadership. Um, from the woman, in racing in that industry today, who inspires you and why?
I'm really careful about that.
Mhm.
So I think sometimes I'm a student of observation.
Sure.
And so I like to watch a lot of programs and a lot of things that are going on, how people carry themselves, how they interact with themselves, with clients. And there are some very solid horsewomen out there that just quietly go about their business and just grind away. There's a trainer in Florida named Kathleen O'Connell who's been just grinding away at it and does a good job. She takes no bull from anybody, but just does her path. I know Vicky Oliver does her thing, and Carla Gaines out in California does her thing. And I think it's important, that you're watching people, male or female, just how they're living their life that might be best fulfilling them and living their best life. And so, men or women in that regard, I like to watch their programs and what they get out of their programs and who seems happiest and most balanced, because this is a grind. This industry, as we know, I mean, we were foaling a mare yesterday and we're, racing on Wednesday. So you've got to find some balance the best you can. But I think for me, it's about how you treat people. Number one, how you treat your horses, and whoever is doing that best is what I'm most proud to watch. I think it's also something to be careful of. You don't want to define your success on others' success.
Sure.
And so watching what somebody accomplishes, saying, oh gosh, I want to be able to do that. Well, you might be cutting yourself short, because you might have so much more past that. But if you define your goals by their goals, so more than anything, how people treat people is the biggest thing for me.
That makes sense. How do you stay ahead of the curve, and adapt to the evolving landscape of the racing industry?
Don't sleep. Don't sleep. I'm just kidding. I feel that's something, that a gift that I was given, of being able to watch the winds blow a little bit and know when to shift your sails, and be mindful of what's coming and going, and watching the trends in the industry, and being able to take that half a step back to look in. And so I just think I'm very blessed to have that as part of my makeup and how I'm wired. But it's imperative for survival in this business to be diversified, as you well know. And so, we get to do a lot of fun things with, young horses, to weanlings, to yearlings, to 2-year-olds. And so I think being plugged into all the different sectors of the business allows me to hear and watch and listen and make sure that I'm tending to myself in that balance of finding the balance with it all.
Very good. Are you involved with any of the, because this world is constantly evolving, especially these days with technology?
Yeah.
Are you
Mhm.
getting involved with that, with technology itself?
In what way?
Um, in
Mhm.
as a trainer, maybe with the training sessions, like how can I explain it better? Um, for example, I've heard people using technology to maybe uh, look at horses, how they perform.
Mhm. We played with it previously some. It may have been a little bit too premature. I mean, technology, as far as communicating with our clients, we are, pretty deep in.
Sure.
We utilize T-Lord for all of our communications and videos and pictures and updates for our owners,
Oh,
like I said, owner experience. But we have played with some of the heart rate monitors and this and that. But I think it's extremely important. It can be a data point, it can be a tool, but when you start relying too much on technology, you're going to miss the intangible aspects of horses. And so I think that's a very, I think if you come across a problem or something you can't figure out, leaning into those, modalities is very good and very important. But they're never going to make you a horseman. And, listening and slowing down, and, there is no machine or technology that will ever replace that.
What are your hopes and aspirations for the future of women in this industry?
For anybody that wants to do it, get in there, do the work. Don't don't be afraid of the work. Understand that it's a lot of work coming into it. But I think you know, whoever wants to aspire to do anything, it doesn't matter. The rest of the stuff's just white noise. Go do it. Go do it. It's gonna be hard, and it's not because you're a female or male. It's gonna be hard. There's people at the top, they're competitive, cutthroat. If you were in banking or if you were in horses, it's the same thing. People at the top don't make it to the top because they're soft. And so if those are what your aspirations are, do it the right way. Don't compromise who you are. Work hard at it. It sounds all so cliche, but it is literally that way. And understand how you treat people along the way is probably the most important thing. Because when you get to some of the goals you're looking to accomplish, if you haven't treated people the right way along the way, you're going to figure that out pretty quickly.
I see. What's the biggest takeaway you found when it comes to women in the racing industry, and maybe the racing industry, in general? Like, what do you love about that community?
It's interesting. My experience, because I can only speak from my space, I received far more support and kindness from other trainers. Sometimes when trainers can be a bit catty to each other. So that was probably my biggest surprise. And I had no expectation, right? I'm doing me, doing our thing. We accomplished a thing. It's pretty amazing. But I didn't do it going, okay, I expect to hear what's going to happen now. Like I'm just that's not realistic. And so I think the general and genuineness of people that did reach out that didn't need to is probably what surprised me the most. And then having the opportunity to speak on behalf of our sport, anywhere, to you, to New Zealand, to, the local area here. So being able to do whatever we can to talk about how amazing these horses are and this industry and why it's important. And, as time goes on, the industry becomes foreign to some. And so we have to do a better job. And so if being female allows me to tell that story loud and proud to whoever will listen, then I will happily do that.
That's fantastic. Let's talk a bit more about your personal, let's say, insights.
Mhm.
Jena, what are some of the greatest lessons you've learned throughout your career?
Patience. Patience. I'm not a very patient person at times, and these horses will teach you to be patient even when you don't want to be. Horses don't care about spreadsheets. And I think it's, you learn along the way. I think I can pick 2 times where I allowed owners to push me in a direction that I didn't want to go with the horse, and it backfired. And so,
Mm.
it's learning to say no, in a respectful way, but learning to say no. And if the people you're working with don't appreciate or respect where you're coming from, it's probably not the right match. And so I think probably some of those lessons have been the biggest. Finding boundaries is hard because I think women innately want to be people pleasers and make everyone happy. Everything's good. We want to take care of everything, put our arms around it all. And so finding balance with some of that is hard. And we just care. I think more than anything, if women, the biggest stigmatism I think I've heard over time is, oh, you don't want a woman to train, they're too soft on their horses. Like, what does that mean? How about the guys too hard on their horses? It's like, so some of those things, which are such generalizations, but I think also respecting the fact of just, so from a very logical point of view, we're in 2024, a lot of our ownership can tend to be older because they've worked their careers, they've established themselves, and they're used to dealing with men, right? Older businessmen are used to the interactions and relationship with older businessmen. So they get into this world and they want to deal with men, not because of any fault of their own, but their relationships have been with men. And so I think that's some of the things that we see changing. And sometimes women can be catty or get hung up on this or that, where women that want to do this and step into this space understand who you're dealing with. Understand that if you're dealing with a strong man or strong woman, understanding what their journey has been and how they deal with other business people, and they're dealing with a business with you. And so I think being very mindful of the people you're working with and their expectations and how they want to be communicated with and dealt with is very important.
And beyond your professional success, what are you most proud of achieving in your life?
My lack of balance. Right now, my dog is yelling at me. No, I think the biggest thing is just, I'm very sorry,
No
Lucy, that's
worries.
not helpful. Come here. She says, no, I want to go. I'm sorry. I think it's, trying to find balance. I keep saying that over and over, and it's not something I'm exceptional at by any means, but having the relationships around you and the people around you that might have nothing to do with this business at all, so that you can check out and be able to unwind and not talk about a thoroughbred for 5 minutes. Horse people tend to talk horses 24/7. So sometimes finding that balance is important. And self-care, making sure people are, taking care of themselves. And again, they're not all things I'm great at. And so I definitely have to apply myself and be very conscious in those thoughts to make sure that we're checking in with those things.
I understand. And Jena, what else is on your drawing board to do, either, racing or non-racing?
I'm going to keep doing what we do and let the industry pull me and try and check those boxes and do it, whether it's horses or not horses. Hopefully have a very positive impact for the long haul. Getting involved with more of the nuts and bolts of the industry. I enjoy business. And so if I can lend a positive voice that is logical and educated and balanced, I think any industry you're in, no matter what you're doing, it's important to give back and to not just take from an industry. And so being involved with some of the, horsemen's boards, I think is important. Being involved with the, charity side and the nonprofit side, and those things are important. And so I'll continue to march along as long as the industry and the horses give me the space to do so, and keep working at finding balance that I'm not so good at.
And patience, as you mentioned.
Patience, yeah.
Excellent. And finally, let's talk about Arcangelo, of course. So, first of all, how is he doing?
He's well. He is taken up residence at Lane's End Farm in Kentucky, and my understanding is he had his first date a couple weeks ago. So that's exciting. Hoping for him that she's announced in full later this week. It's super cool and fun to watch people receive him in the next part of his journey. And obviously we're gonna have some mares go his direction as well, and obviously can't wait to watch the personality that he'll hopefully send through into his foals, hit the ground next year.
Very well. And finally, on to the last questions, what are your plans for him in 2024, 2025?
Hopefully he makes great babies. That's his plan. He gets to have that life now. And, obviously our racing plans were cut a little bit short for, minor setback and a hind ankle that we were so blessed to find. But he's well and great and thriving. And so it's up to him now and his DNA to see what for 2025, we're going to hope that those kiddos that hit the ground are going to be, as salty and special and quirky and fun as he was, and have his heart of a champion. That's my hope for him for 2025.
Excellent, Jena. Thank you so much for joining us today. That was great.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed it.
I did. I hope you did too.
Yeah, of course, of course. That was very good. Thanks a lot. I hope you
Thank
have a
you.
good rest of your day as well.
You too.
Thanks.